And then toward the end of 6 years there, I'm getting to be 64, and Naomi has some serious surgery, and decided maybe it's time that I retire because we want to have some good time together. So we announced our retirement. We end up being a part of the retired Methodist clergy and the retired Presbyterian clergy. Naomi's looking at her clock and saying, it's time to quit, I guess. You're going to put up with a few more minutes. We took part, upon retirement, we moved to Coal Valley. We started to take part in Naomi's home church, which was Memorial Christian Church across from the Rock Island Courthouse. I do some some Sunday preaching occasionally. I ended up doing a Sunday school class at her church. Somebody roped me into being chaplain on a volunteer basis over to Illini Hospital, which still goes on now once a month almost now, a week at a time. And 3 years ago, maybe it was 2.5 years ago, the Methodist District Superintendent calls me, says, Bill, I need an interim pastor. Would you be willing to fill in at Taylor Ridge and Reynolds for 2 months? Pastor's leaving. It's going to take that long for me to get the new pastor up. So we were over there. And I hadn't been there one Sunday, the first Sunday, Dow Brooks dies. Some of you may know she's the wife of the band teacher here in the Sherrard School District. That was the biggest funeral I ever had in my life. That church was absolutely packed over there in Reynolds. She was a Moffat. Merle Moffat recently died, and I've known them for almost 30 years. Well, about a year later, Naomi was diagnosed with a malignancy in her lungs, and she had to go through some radiation treatment, which seems to have been fairly successful. She's looking pretty good now, feeling pretty good by and large. We're getting along. What I wanted to get to, though, having told all that, is my Christian background or upbringing. I'm always a part of the church. Grew up in a rural community. It was German. My German grandparents were very concerned that we always get to church. My mother wasn't that happy about the German church because they had German services every other week at that time. So for a while at least, they alternated between the Baptist church that she went to in Mason City and the German church. Eventually, World War II came along. German services were out. And we went to the Presbyterian church regularly. I was confirmed there. Became a part of the youth group. The little town we were in had only a Methodist church. I got a part of that Methodist youth group too. 2 youth groups. Boy, that must have rubbed off in some way. I went to a summer conference at the Methodist camp in Clear Lake, Iowa. One of my favorite hymns to this day remains to be one that one of the conference leaders said was his favorite hymn. And now I can't even remember the name of it. My faith looks up to thee, thou Lamb of Calvary. A beautiful hymn. Somewhere along the way, my life got mixed up in a way. That is, I started, the Korean War broke out in 1950. I started junior college that year in Mason City. The ministry was a part of my life possibilities at that time, but not a probability. But I got real interested in mathematics. Engineering was my math teacher was promoting engineering, and I finally decided I was going to become an engineer. The local draft board had other things in mind. They thought I needed this free, all-expense trip paid to Korea. So I got that. Spent 14 months overseas in Korea, came back to this country, enrolled at Iowa State College to become an engineer. But before the classes began, I was having second thoughts. Talked with people at Dubuque, decided I would at least take a semester or a year there to see what my mind really was. And after a semester, I decided I was going into the ministry. And that's how I ended up where I was. My mother, one other thing. My wife's looking at that block again. And so's our pastor. No, she's not looking at it, but she knows she's got communion to do. Among my upbringing, my mother told me about her grandmother who had a practice of reading the Bible cover to cover once a year. Every year. Now, I suspect, as I think back on it, that maybe this was something that Grandma Scott did late in life. Not when she was a young mother with 4 girls. Anybody who's had girls in the family, that's almost as bad as having 4 boys. My mother had 4 boys. At seminary, or after seminary, I picked up some of those habits. I started reading the Bible on a regular basis. I got through the entire Bible every year. I read the New Testament 2 or 3 times, and the Gospels maybe a couple more times than that. And I tried to maintain a little bit of competency in the Greek language, which we Presbyterians were required to learn, to take in seminary. And up until the time I retired, I read maybe half a dozen to 10 verses of Greek every day. Unfortunately, I never reached the competency that John Wesley had. You know, I read these stories that here's John Wesley on his horse going to another, and he's reading his Greek New Testament. I have to study that real hard, get the endings, the proper endings of the words, and know whether it's masculine or feminine, whether it's an objective or whether it's a subject, whether it's possessive. All those kinds of things didn't come naturally to me. Well, I don't know. All this, I think, must have given me at least the strength to take care of the fact that my first wife died of cancer. I had a 3-year-old boy to raise. When I was over in Hamlet, I had to go bail him out of the county jail. He got picked up for alcohol in the car. Preacher kid's supposed to do that? Oh, well. And all that. And I got through it. And he ended up with a wonderful wife back there. 26 years now. And that's 3 times the length that I was married to my first wife. And I guess what I would say comes, God is my strength and my refuge, which is from Psalm 46. Thank you.